Hey guys, this is Ray with Double R Diesel. Welcome back to the shop and my channel. And today I'm introducing our new shop truck. We decided to make a commitment to our channel here, and we weighed out business things and personal matters, and we've made a purchase here, and we've got ourselves a new 2025 Ram Heavy Duty. It is the Rebel model. It's 2500. Has the 6.7 Cummins, of course, and it's got the new ZF 8-speed transmission. So guys, we're going to talk about this truck in a little more detail, do some comparisons to how things used to be versus how they are now with the new revised 6.7 Cummins and the new ZF 8-speed transmission. We're going to talk about my initial thoughts here after driving the truck a little bit and the plans for the future. So let's check it out. All right, guys, we've got the hood open here, and for 2025, this is the star of the show. It is a refreshed version of our tried and true 6.7 liter inline six Cummins diesel engine. And cameraman, if you can pan up and get a view of the top side here, you can definitely tell there is quite a bit different versus the older versions. I'll get the truck in the shop and we'll talk more about it, but you can see everything's completely redesigned. It's got a different cylinder head, different intake setup on it, different fuel injection setup, different exhaust setup. I mean, everything about it except for the displacement is completely different versus the previous generation. And what you can't see just yet, the other big star of the show, is the new ZF transmission that's up under here that couples the engine to the final drive. And I'll go ahead and tell you guys, after driving this truck a few miles, haven't put a load on it yet, but just unloaded, it is a big improvement versus what we've had, both with the ASIN 68 RFE G56. This is a much more refined truck. Engine wise, transmission wise, it's superb so far. So I'm gonna get it in the shop, we're gonna get it on the lift, and I'll point some things out to you and we'll talk about it in more detail. All right, guys, we got our 25 truck here in the shop. Got the hood open, and I wanted to show you a few things that right off the bat you can tell is different with this newest generation of the 6.7 liter Cummins. So starting on the intake side, we've got a side draft intake manifold that bolts to the cylinder head. Gale Banks is already taking credit for this. He said this is, something that he designed years ago for the 5.9s for a race application. And obviously, all the race builds use a side draft type intake manifold to get better airflow distribution among the cylinders. The prior setup had the intake track feeding in at the front of the head, and then it had to distribute the airflow down through the cylinders along a very narrow pathway. But now we've got a true side draft intake. Obviously, we've got our EGR plumbed into it here. Looking at the top of the engine, we've got our crankcase breather that looks kind of familiar, but if you look at the rest of it, the valve cover is completely different. And the reason why is we've got external fuel injectors now that sit outside of the valve cover. Prior generations, we had everything enclosed in the valve cover, the valve train, as well as the fuel injectors and the fuel injector wiring harness. Now everything's external fuel injector wise. It uses a different type fuel injector that is a more high pressure fuel injector. It's kind of like the piezo setup on the Power Strokes. And also, cameraman, let me hold your phone just a second. And if we can focus right here, we've got a different high pressure fuel pump on this setup as well. And this is the Bosch CP8. It looks very similar to a CP4, but they've learned their lesson supposedly from the CP4 pump, and we now use a CP8 pump. And the reason why is this type of pump setup is capable of higher injection pressures. And the more fuel injection pressure you can have, the better atomization you can get with your fuel spray, and you get a better combustion effect, which in turn gives you more power. My understanding is this system is running around 32,000 psi max with the factory tune on it. So in comparison, the prior generations you know, went up to 26, 27,000 psi, 28 in some cases, but that was the limit. Now we're much higher. We're well over 30,000 psi with our fuel injection pressures now. So I'm going to give the camera back to my assistant here, and we're going to move to the other side of the engine. Okay, let's talk about what we can see. We've got an cartridge style oil filter system. We don't have the spin on down on the side of the block anymore. We've got it up top where it's a little more serviceable, uses a cartridge style. Personally, I like it. You know, you can pull the drain plug, get the oil draining out of the engine, and then loosen this up. And by the time you do that, the oil should be drained out of this housing, and you can just change your element, and that'll make serviceability a little easier when it comes to oil change time. We still got an EGR cooler that sits on top of the intake manifold. It is a redesigned system. Everything about it's completely different versus the prior generation. What you probably can't see very well is this truck has a different turbo setup on it compared to the prior generation and a different exhaust manifold. Um, I'll try to find some online pictures to where you can see what this actually looks like, but they've got the diesel oxidation catalyst moved very close. We're actually right behind the turbine housing on the turbo, which helps the diesel oxidation catalyst light off quicker, process emissions quicker. But by doing so, they had to relocate the turbo a little more forward. And actually, what's really cool about this is got a almost like a second gen style manifold, exhaust manifold setup where the turbo mounts in the center and you get a better distribution of the exhaust flow. I think it's a higher flow setup, so I think that's really, really good. This truck would sound really awesome, I think, if it was deleted, but obviously we can't do that right now. We can't even tune the truck yet, but I think that's going to change possibly in the near future. I've got my hunches, but don't have any facts, but I think it's coming. So got a new induction setup, new turbo, new fuel injection setup, got a new exhaust setup on it. Everything is new. Cylinder head's completely redesigned. It's got a new iron block. They've got away from the compacted graphite block. The front gear drive on the motor is a helical gear design to quieten things down. And I will tell you that this engine is so much more quieter than what it used to be. You can barely tell it's a diesel, but if you listen hard enough, you'll definitely hear that coming sound if you're an enthusiast. But a lot of stuff up here. I'm going to get the truck in the air. We're going to look at it from the bottom and we'll talk about it in a little more detail. All right, guys, we got the truck in the air, and I want to give you a little overview of what we can see from the bottom side. So this right here is the other big change for 2025, and if you probably can't see it, but anyway, the tag right here, Smart ZF Powerline, and it is an 8-speed transmission, and this is a very robust and heavy-duty transmission that has been in the design and testing for actually a few years now. They didn't just come out with this. This has been in the works for a while, and it's actually used more than just pickups. It's used in much bigger vehicle, buses, and so on and so forth. And this transmission can be equipped with a power takeoff as well. So it is more than enough for this pickup truck in the 25, 3500 size, as well as 45 and 5500. But I can tell you from driving this truck, the transmission tuning at this power level is on point. It knows what gear to be in, and it just makes the truck a whole lot more lively when it comes to acceleration. One thing that's really interesting here, I told you that the diesel oxidation catalyst is behind the turbo, and you can't really see it from any angle. It's way up in there. But what is interesting is our def injector is right here coming from the downpipe. And it looks like we've got our selective catalytic reduction ahead of the DPF. Got a def injector here, def fluids injected here. It's catalyzed, I assume, in this chamber here. and then behind that is the actual what appears to be the DPF. Because, and the reason I say that is because I see a differential pressure sensor set up where it measures the pressure in front of it versus behind it, which is a way it measures the soot loading to let the ECM know how full this thing is and when a regeneration cycle may need to happen. So quite interesting. Suspension wise, basically the same as the other 2500 models with a coil spring setup in the rear. We do have a one axle ratio option of a 3.42, which with this new transmission is quite all right. It's got such a super deep first gear. You don't need 410s, 430s, that kind of thing to get the truck moving. So I like it. It's got a lot of potential. I can't wait to be able to custom tune these things. Like I said, I have my hunches that this will be tunable at some point. If you've been keeping up with social media stuff, you do know that out west there was a show in which Corey Willis had gotten some access through Cummins to actually be able to custom tune a 3500 dually, and they made some demo runs with it. So Cummins knows that the aftermarket is there and wants access to it. So I think things might happen, especially given the more relaxed stance on some emissions things that we're seeing so far with the government. Now, that's a whole nother subject. We still can't delete trucks. I don't think we'll ever see these things come from the factory with zero emissions equipment on them, but I think things are going to be a little more relaxed enough that Cummins might actually let some things slip. And the reason I say that is if you look at the Ford situation, everybody said the new 24 plus Fords were not going to be tunable, but Ford let some stuff slip and it got into the hands of the aftermarket, and you now know 24 plus Fords can be tuned. So wouldn't be a bit surprised if you don't see something happen with these new Cummins before too much longer. But guys, we're going to be testing this truck further. We're going to put it on the chassis dyno, see how it does stock. I've got a fifth wheel camper. I'm going to be doing some heavy towing with this thing. I'll let you guys know how it performs. We'll talk about routine maintenance with this truck compared with the old trucks, how that works out. So stay tuned, guys. It's going to be pretty exciting. As always, guys, thank you for following along. God bless each and every one of you, and we will see you again real soon.